Welcome back to another explainer. Okay, let's dive right into this. When we picture the Amazon, it's so incredibly tempting to imagine this tranquil, perfectly undisturbed paradise. Just peaceful nature, right? Well, the source material we're digging into today completely flips that idea on its head. It describes the Amazon not as some peaceful retreat, but as a massive, pulsing, high-pressure biological engine. We're talking about a world of relentless moisture, echoing sound, and intense, literal cutthroat competition, where nature operates at its absolute maximum capacity.
50 million. Just let that sink in for a second. For over 50 million years, this massive living labyrinth has essentially been doing the heavy lifting for our entire global ecosystem. Day in, day out, it's been pulling huge amounts of carbon right out of the air and exhaling the oxygen that, sustains pretty much every living creature on this planet. It's this ancient, completely unbroken cycle of life.
And the sheer scale of this biological engine, it's honestly hard to wrap your head around. Over 2 million square miles of South America. That is a relentless green ocean stretching entirely across the continent, where literally every single leaf is acting like a tiny solar panel and every massive root functions as a lung for the Earth.
And within that huge footprint, this space shelters 1 in every 10 species known to science. 1 in 10. Just think about the sheer density of that for a moment. When you pack that much incredibly diverse life into one region, it sets the stage for a never-ending, highly intense biological competition. In the Amazon, the rule is simple. You are either continuously adapting or you're vanishing.
Section 1. Earth's most powerful engine, forged in pressure. Now, to truly understand the creatures living here, we have to look at the extreme environment itself. It's often completely inhospitable. Think about the roaring power of massive natural features like the Kayatur waterfall. It drops from plateau edges with a roar that literally shakes the mist around it. And it's exactly this overwhelming, constant physical pressure that actively forges the incredibly resilient inhabitants we're about to look at.
But here's the thing. Power here isn't always loud. It's silent, it's hidden, it's deeply patient. So while the weather and the waterfalls might be loudly roaring across the landscape, the most formidable predators shaped by all this intense pressure actually operate in total, absolute silence. Down on the dim forest floor and way up in the dense canopy, quiet calculation really rules the day.
Which brings us to Section 2, Masters of Shadow and Camouflage. Let's look at the animals completely dominating this silent theater. Survival here is rarely about making a huge scene. It's achieved through sheer meticulous evolutionary perfection.
Now, what's really interesting here is the solitary jaguar, the undisputed sovereign of the forest floor. But unlike big cats out on the savanna who just rely on brute running speed, this cat uses a totally different playbook. It relies heavily on water, calculated stealth, and memory. With a bite literally powerful enough to crush skulls, the jaguar easily swims across flooded channels to stalk its prey, constantly navigating these vast territories along invisible highways of scent.
Now contrast that coiled, explosive force with the agonizingly slow life of the sloth, right? It's a completely different yet equally perfect survival strategy. A sloth climbs down from the safety of the canopy just once a week, exclusively to use the bathroom at the base of its tree. Seriously. And that waste fertilizes the roots, which then feed its canopy home high up above, closing this beautifully perfect cycle of return. It even wears a coat of symbiotic algae just to get that flawless green camouflage.
So it all boils down to a pretty profound reality of the jungle. Survival here isn't luck, it's chemistry. In this massive, constant biological arms race, survival heavily relies on complex chemical warfare. It's not just about who's the biggest or strongest anymore. It's about who has the absolute most specialized molecular defenses.
Venom and camouflage are basically the ultimate languages of survival here. Take the eyelash viper. It uses this incredibly precise hemotoxic venom to completely shut down its prey in a sub-second strike. Then you have the poison dart frog, which actually borrows toxins right from its insect diet to create that lethal, electric-colored warning skin. And in a world where being seen means death, camouflage is the ultimate armor. The glass frog becomes literally transparent to erase its shadow. Meanwhile, the leaf insect flawlessly mimics the exact veins, folds, and even the tiny bite marks of dead leaves. It's just wild.
All right, Section 3, Unseen Architects and Builders. So, we've talked about individual survival, but let's see how this scales up to collective intelligence. Because the physical structure of the forest isn't just shaped by the climate, it's actively built, farmed, and recycled by these massive micro-empires.
Just look at this incredible contrast. On one hand, you have the bullet ant, This insect represents raw defensive force, with a venomous sting that famously ranks highest on the Schmidt Pain Index. Ouch. But on the other hand, the leafcutter ant represents this masterful, hidden design. Get this, they don't even eat the leaves they tirelessly cut. They use them as fertilizer to farm massive underground fungal gardens. They even have hidden bacteria on their bodies that produce antibiotics to protect their crops from mold. I mean, they're basically tiny farmers.
And that kind of collective intelligence scales up beautifully right into the canopy. Let's talk about fission-fusion groups. These are small subsocieties that fluidly split up and then reunite every single day, completely depending on where the food is. Spider monkeys use this highly adaptable social structure, along with their prehensile tails acting like extra limbs, to efficiently navigate the trees. They're literally building complex societies out of sound and shared memory.
But obviously, an engine running this hard produces waste, right? So the Amazon relies heavily on an expert cleanup crew. The king vulture hooks open tough hides to clear decay before it can actually poison the land. Down below, the massive Amazonian manatee gently grazes on floating meadows, actively shaping the water channels so sunlight can reach down for new growth. And you have the patient side-neck turtle slowly cleaning up the muddy shallows. Without these vital scavengers and gentle recyclers, this whole biological engine would just completely collapse.
Section 4. Ancient Rivers and Hidden Cities. All of this incredible life, literally from the microscopic fungus up to the jaguar, is bound together by one massive, continuous flow, the Amazon River. It is the main artery tying the heartbeat of the forest into a single living organism.
And this brilliantly illustrates the staggering magnitude of this artery. 29,000. That's 29,000 cubic meters of water being released into the ocean every single second. To put that into perspective, its massive basin drains a fifth of Earth's fresh water. That is a volume utterly unrivaled by any other river system on the planet.
Now, the deep geological history here is fascinating. Check this out. 65 million years ago, before the Andes mountain range even existed, this river actually flowed west toward the Pacific. But as the mountains were violently pushed up, a vast inland sea drained out and slowly transformed into the dense forest we know today. Now the line between river and land seamlessly dissolves, flooding and retreating in this eternal rhythm. Which leads us to a really fascinating question for you to ponder. Was the Amazon ever truly empty? We so often hear this myth of the perfectly untouched wild, right? A pristine nature completely free of human influence. But as we're about to see, the archaeological data tells a very different, deeply collaborative story. Because beneath that thick canopy, researchers are actually finding traces of highly complex, ancient human civilizations. We're talking about massive geometric causeways and raised fields in Bolivia. Advanced LiDAR scans in Brazil's Xingio Basin have revealed circular villages connected by this huge network of radiating roads and trenches. These early peoples literally engineered flood-resistant gardens that breathed right alongside the changing seasons, creating a massive latticework of human ecology.
The real secret to this long-lasting civilization, though, was Terra Preta, or Dark Earth. This was a forgotten science where early humans deliberately mixed charcoal, bone, and organic waste to create highly sustainable, hyper-fertile soil. Ancient people, much like the ancestors of the modern Huarani people today, mastered survival through a deep, sustainable conversation with the land. They weren't trying to conquer it, they were working with it.
Section 5. The planet's breathing heart. Okay, let's pull back for a second and look at the macro level. Because what happens locally in this incredible ecosystem absolutely does not stay local. The Amazon connects directly to our global climate.
The forest's health is essentially the planet's memory. Today, as we all know, this unstoppable force is being severely tested by modern human threats. Things like clearings, chainsaws, and out-of-control fires are aggressively challenging that balance, releasing carbon that took millennia to store. Yet our sources consistently remind us that the forest is relentless. It persistently endures, constantly fighting to recover and regenerate life.
And here is exactly why this matters to every single one of us watching right now. The Amazon produces a massive percentage of the world's oxygen. It acts as a critical climate vault, absorbing billions of tons of carbon every single year. The river basin literally shapes weather systems across multiple continents. The immense vapor it releases up into the atmosphere becomes the rain that falls on the rest of the globe. Its breathing cycle directly sustains all of us.
Which leaves us with this final, absolutely crucial thought. If the Amazon's breath shapes the weather of the entire world, what happens to our future if it ever stops exhaling? It's a stark reminder of our deep, undeniable connection to this relentless biological engine. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep learning, stay curious, and I'll see you next time.